السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار أما بعد. In the 36th year of the Hijrah, the first civil war between the Sahaba occurred. Our khutbah is not about the war, it's about the story from the war. On one side, you had Talha ibn Ubaidullah and Az-Zubair ibn al-Awwam and Aisha radiallahu anha. And on the other side, you have Ali ibn Abi Talib. All four of these are major Sahaba. And no doubt this was a tragic war, and our scholars say neither side wanted to fight, but Shaitan caused it to happen. And of the most famous martyrs, the most famous shaheed from this war was Talha ibn Ubaidillah. Now Ali, as soon as he heard about the death of Talha, he cried. And he called his son Imran ibn Talha. And he said to Imran, Wallahi, he's swearing by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Wallahi, I believe that your father and I are among those whom Allah mentioned in the verse, وَنَزَعْنَا مَا فِي صُدُورِهِم مِّنْ غِلٍّ إِخْوَانًا عَلَى سُرُرٍ مُتَقَابِلِينَ. We shall remove the hatred, any hatred that was in their heart. We shall remove that hatred from their heart, and they shall be in Jannah, brothers in reclining couches, facing each other. This is our khutbah. This is the topic of our khutbah. How to have a clean heart, a heart devoid of hatred, despite having disagreements with your brother or sister, despite having differences with your brother and sister. You see, we often say that forgiveness is ideal. We often say that we should forgive and forget. But if you look at reality, we can't always forgive and we can't always forget. You look at the lives of the Sahaba. Sometimes they disagreed verbally and they also went to war for each other. But at the end of the day, both parties realized that they are Muslims in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Both parties realized that their goal was Jannah. There was still some ukhuwah between both parties. And this is what we are going to talk about. How to have a heart that is qalbun salim, that is free of resentment and hatred and envy and jealousy. The word used in the verse which Ali said was ghil. And ghil means that you want some harm to come to your brother or sister. You want your brother or sister to be chained up and to be living in pain. And we are going to talk about what can we do to remove the ghil, that hatred from our hearts. So we are going to talk 5 ways on how to remove resentment from our heart. And the first 3 ways is found in a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, ثلاث لا يغل عليهن قلب مسلم. Very clear, very explicit. If you do 3 things, it's going to remove ghil from your heart. It's going to remove that hatred from your heart. If you do 3 things. Number 1, ikhlasul amal lillah. Being sincere in your deeds towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Having sincerity in your deeds towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How can you expect a good relationship with the creation if you don't have a good relationship with the Creator? So being sincere towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in what you do, in how you do, in everything you do. You have that ikhlas towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the first step for having your deeds being accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the first step to remove ghil from your heart, to remove hatred from your heart, that you have sincerity in your deeds towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 2, وَمُنَاصَحَةُ أَئِمَّةَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, giving advice towards those who have been charged with taking care of the community, whether it's politically or our leaders, our imams, our sheikhs, our religious leaders. Whenever you hear the verse أئمة المسلمين أو ولاة الأمر in the Quran, Ibn Abbas said, yes, it means those that have been placed politically in charge of you, but it also means those who are your imams, your scholars, your sheikhs. Now this does not mean that they are free of sin, but you should take care of yourself first. You should take care of yourself first. You should wish for the good of the ummah. You should wish for the ummah to flourish. You should not wish for the ummah to go down. That is what is meant here. That you give advice and you advise those who are in power. And number 3, sticking with the Jama'ah, sticking with your community, being involved in your community, getting to know the people in your community. You see, when you interact with people, you get to know people from different backgrounds, from different cultures, and you see that everyone makes mistakes, everyone commits sins, and you learn how to deal with people. If you are a lone wolf, if you are cut off from the community, and all you do is complain and complain and complain, what benefit do you bring? So you stick with your community. Something simple as coming to Jummah, something simple as coming to the masjid, something simple as teaching in the masjid, being involved in your community. That is what the Prophet ﷺ said. Number 1, having ikhlas towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 2, giving nasiha, giving advice to those who are in charge. And number 3, sticking with the community, sticking with the Jama'ah. Number 4, following the prophetic guidance on gossiping, backbiting, slandering, publicizing private sins. You see, one of the big problems we have in our communities is that we love to talk about the sins of other people. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that whoever follows the sins of his brother or sister, Allah shall follow his sins and expose his sins on the day of judgment. Sometimes we forget the principle of satr, covering up the sins of our brothers and sisters. Brothers and sisters, listen carefully. Whatever sin you come across that your friend has committed, as long as that sin is a private sin, a sin that does not involve misusing or abusing the rights of other people, you have no right to publicize that sin. This is the default. There are exceptions. What we tend to do is follow the exceptions and not follow the general rule. Private sins are meant to be private, as long as they do not involve the misusing or abusing the rights of other people. That's number 4. And number 5, realize, my dear brothers and sisters, to create divisions in the community is a tactic of shaitan. It's a tactic of shaitan. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that inna shaitana qad ya'isa an yu'badahu al-musallun fi jaziratil Arab. You know, shaitan, he has given up hope that he should be worshipped in the lands of the Arab. There will be no idols worshipped in the land of Arabia as long as Islam is there. But what he has not given up? At-tahrish bainahum. To come in between people, to create divisions between people, to create distractions between people, to make sure that you are not sticking with the community, that the community is not one but rather divided. Look at the story of Yusuf. Look at the brothers of Yusuf when they allowed jealousy and envy to take over their heart, and that drove them to do what they did to Yusuf. But look at the end of the story. What did Yusuf say? No, my brothers did this, and nazagha ash-shaytanu bayni wa bayna ikhwati. It was the whispering of the shaitan that came between me and my brothers. Because he realized this is the tactic of shaitan, to come in between our brothers and sisters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبَلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. That hold on to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do not be divided. You see, brothers and sisters, we can afford disagreements, we can afford differences, but what we can't afford is divisions. We can't afford to be cut off from each other. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله ما بعد. Once a man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he asked, Ya Rasulullah, Ayyun nas afdal? Who is the best of mankind? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied and he said, Kullu makhmumil qalb وصدوق اللسان. كل مخموم القلب وصدوق اللسان. The people said, Ya Rasulullah, we know صدوق اللسان is someone who speaks the truth. But what is مخموم القلب? What is مخموم القلب? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, he said, هو التقي والنقي. This is the heart that has taqwa and is pure. This is the heart that is taqwa, that is fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that has ikhlas towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and is pure. La ithma fihi. There is no sin in this. Wala baghiya, wala ghilla, wala hasad. There is no jealousy in this heart, there is no hatred in this heart, there is no envy in this heart, there is no resentment in this heart. And we all know of a hadith. It's a weak hadith, but the concept is good. The concept is hasan. Where a man came to the masjid and the Prophet ﷺ said that this man is from the people of Jannah. And Abdullah ibn Umar went and spent 3 nights with this man. And then he asked the man, what do you do that makes, the Prophet says you're from the people of Jannah. What do you do? He said that I go to bed at night clearing any hatred or rancor or resentment I have towards each other. He keeps his heart in check. He keeps his heart in check. It is okay to have differences, to have disagreements. But what we cannot afford to have is a heart full of hatred, of resentment. The Prophet ﷺ said that if you want love to blossom between each other, spread the salams. say Assalamu alaikum. Even if you have a disagreement, you don't have to be friendly or friends with everyone. The least you do is to say salam to each other. That's the least you do. And the more, the better. So we said 5 things to clear hatred from your heart. First, ikhlas towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Being sincere towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 2, wishing for the wellness and the goodness of the ummah by giving advice towards those who are in charge. Number 3, sticking with the community, being involved with the community, interacting with the community. Number 4, staying away from gossiping, backbiting, slandering, following the sins of your brother or sister. And number 5, realize that this is a tactic of shaitan. This is the plan of shaitan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us and bless us with hearts that has no resentment and hatred and envy and jealousy. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gather us amongst those from the people of Jannah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who are quoted in the verse, وَنَزَعْنَا مَا فِي صُدُورِهِم مِّنْ غِلٍّ إِخْوَانًا عَلَى سُرُرٍ مُتَقَابِلِينَ رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم اجعل آخر كلامنا من الدنيا شهادة أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمد رسول الله وتوفنا وأنت راض عنا غير غضبان وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين هل أتاك حديث الغاشية وجوه يومئذ خاشعة عاملة ناصبة تصلى نارا حامية تسقى من عين آنية ليس لهم طعام إلا من ضريع لا يسمن ولا يغني من جوع وجوه يومئذ ناعمة لسعيها راضية في جنة عالية لا تسمع فيها لاغية فيها عين جارية فيها سرر مرفوعة وأكواب موضوعة ونمارق مصفوفة وزرابي مبثوثة أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت وإلى السماء كيف رفعت وإلى الجبال كيف نصبت وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت فذكر إنما أنت مذكر لست عليهم بمسيطر إلا من تولى وكفر فيعذبه الله العذاب الأكبر إن إلينا إيابهم ثم إن علينا حسابهم الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, just a few quick announcements, inshallah. Tonight we will continue our Friday Family Night program after Isha prayer. Tonight we have Sheikh Yusuf Salatin with us, and we will be discussing the blessing of contentment, inshallah. So please come out tonight after Isha prayer. Tomorrow we have two programs. The first one at 11 a.m. we have our general body meeting for the whole community. This is our chance to meet the management, meet the shura, and meet the different committees at the masjid and get updates on what the committees have been up to. So inshallah, we invite the entire community to come tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. After Dhuhr prayer tomorrow at 12:30, we have an Umrah workshop for the whole community with Sheikh Hassan Muhammad, where we will discuss the rituals of the Umrah, some tips and tricks, and some do's and don'ts, inshallah. So we'll see you tomorrow for these two programs, and tonight for the Friday Family Night program. Jazakumullahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.